यस्मान्नो द्विजते लोकः लोकान्नो द्विजते च यः हर्षामर्षभयोद्वेगैः मुक्तो यः स च मे प्रियः।
Yasmat na udvijate lokaha, one by whom the world is not disturbed, and one who cannot be disturbed by the world. Free from joy, anger, fear, and remorse. Again he says, such a one is dear to me. This is the chorus right through these verses. Yaha sacha me priyaha. So quality number 13. Yasmat na udvijate lokaha, one who does not disturb or agitate the world. Who does not disturb the world? Who agitates? Okay, let's go back to us. Do you agree that all of us agitate the world? First thing in the morning you get up and you go wake up your children. Hurry up, get up, go to school. What are you doing? You are agitating the children. You ride on somebody's back. We are constantly agitating the world. Who agitates the world? Selfish people, egocentric people, takers. Those who are working for themselves are the people who disturb and agitate the world. Who is a person who does not agitate the world? An unselfish person, a humble person, a person who serves and sacrifices for humanity. A person who's a giver never agitates the world. That is why everybody likes to have pets at home. Why do you have a pet dog? Because that poor dog doesn't make any demands on you. One step further is plants. At least a dog you have to feed and the dog barks when it is hungry and things like that. The poor plant, even if you don't give it water and nutrition, the plant doesn't go on strike. Have you ever heard of the plant going on strike? So, everybody loves plants. Everybody likes pets. Human beings you don't like because human beings make demands. So, a bhakta is unselfish. He works for loka sangraha, the welfare of humanity. You must cultivate this quality of giving. Be a giver in life because it's a giver who gains. Again, Swami Ramatirtha said, the way to gain anything is to lose it. Give it. If you want to be a wealthy person, if you want to be a rich person, first learn to give. Giving is not unintelligent charity, please. Giving is the attitude of giving. That's all that you need to cultivate. Just the thought of giving. One thought of giving, if you cultivate in your mind, what power it gives you, what great success it gives you. You find companies losing propositions. MD after MD comes, chairman after chairman comes, and the company keeps making losses. Suddenly, one person appears on the scene. And what is different? The difference is, here is a person who thinks of contributing. Here is a person who thinks of the company's interest, not his own. And what happens? He's able to turn around the company. The moment you think of something beyond yourself, you get creative. You get ideas which never occur to anybody else. And you turn around the company. And such a person gets awards, such a person gets bonuses, such a person gets power the likes of which you don't get if you concentrate on taking. So learn this. That is why throughout the Gita, he eulogizes giving. In the Rig Veda, there is a whole chapter on dhanam, charity. Charity is an integral part of Indian life and Indian custom and tradition. Don't ever give that up. You give that up and you're finished. One who works for loka sangraha is wanted by all, gains, prospers, is happy, most importantly, evolves spiritually. So, yasmat na udvijate loka, and then you become fearless. All takers are afraid. You know, you just have the attitude of taking, you don't even have to grab anything. You think, and that's what happens all the time. Wherever you go, whoever you meet, whatever you do, your first and last thought is, how can I benefit from this? Even if there is a tsunami or an earthquake, first thing that people think of is not to go and help the people. How can I benefit from this tragedy? What a sick attitude to have. Whereas on the other hand, there are people who start to finish, from birth to death, have this attitude of giving. In the 3rd chapter of the Gita, he says, when the creator Prajapati created the human being is outstanding in one quality, is that he says the human being has the capacity to sacrifice. So he gave us a birthday gift of yajna, the capacity to give, to sacrifice. And then he says, with this, may you prosper. When he says that, what does he mean? If you don't give, if you don't sacrifice, it is impossible to prosper. Then it doesn't matter whether you have an MBA from Harvard or MIT, whether you have high political connections or whatever else you may be having, or have Bill Gates for a father-in-law. Anything you may have, but if you don't have this capacity of yajna, you will not prosper. And then he says, may this be the kamadhenu of all your endeavors. The power of giving. So here is a person who does not disturb the world, a person who works for the welfare of the world. Lokatna udvijate yaha. Second, the next is 14th quality, is one who is not disturbed by the world. See, there are people who may not disturb the world, but they get disturbed by the world. So the question arises, how is it that you don't get disturbed by the world? You are independent. So the first thing is, if you make a correct evaluation of the world, you understand you're living in the world, you're living in a certain family, you must make an evaluation of your family members. Like, for instance, let's say the wife needs to make an assessment of the husband. The husband is a fine person, everything is okay with him, he is just an ill-tempered fellow. Some people are like that. They come home and they throw a fit, scream and shout. And once they let off steam, they're perfectly all right, docile people. So you have to make an assessment, evaluate the person. There are some people who are scheming. There are some people who are all kinds of people you get. You have to evaluate the organization that you work for, the city that you live in, the people who are around you, the country, the whole country has a certain culture. Like in India, one of the trademarks of an Indian is what? He will come late. So when a person comes late, you immediately understand this fellow's got Indian genes somewhere down the line. Make an assessment, evaluation. If a fellow comes on time, either he is gotten over his Indian genes or he has some Caucasian genes, Western genes. Make an assessment. So when you make an assessment and evaluation of the world, then that you have no unreasonable expectations from the world, there are no frustrations, you don't get disturbed by the world. But ultimately, you gain complete freedom from the world when you shift your identification from the body, mind and intellect to Atman. So for which we need to take a look at an example. Take a horseshoe magnet. If you bring a piece of iron to the horseshoe magnet, what happens? It is attracted by the magnet, it is influenced by the magnet. That you can't help, that's a law. Take away the iron piece and bring a wooden piece to the horseshoe magnet, what happens? No effect. The magnet does not have the power to influence or affect wood. Now you do something interesting. You tie the iron and the wooden pieces together and bring this combination to the magnet. What happens? What happens? It's attracted. Even though the wooden piece in the combination is uninfluenced by the magnet, when it is tied to an iron piece, the combination is influenced by the magnet, and therefore the wooden piece appears to be affected. But even when the combination is attracted by the magnet, the wooden piece in the combination remains immaculate, unaffected, uninfluenced. Now you and I are like this combination. We are a combination of matter and spirit. The matter in us is body, mind, intellect. The magnet is the world, which has a powerful influence on the body, mind, and intellect. When it is hot outside, the body is uncomfortable. When it is cold outside, the body will freeze. You can't help that. But when the body goes through these fluctuations, you, the spirit, need not be affected. You are affected now because of the bonding, the attachment, the constant association with the body, so also with the mind and the intellect. And that is what makes you dependent on the world. So, if you don't want to get influenced by the world, and please remember one thing, the world is a mixture of pairs and opposites, pairs of opposites. You cannot gain freedom from that. And your body, mind, and intellect will be influenced by the world and the changes in the world. So the only way not to get disturbed by the world is to shift your attention from the body, mind, and intellect to the spirit. Just loosen this bondage a little bit. And when you loosen this bondage, even when the body, mind, and intellect get influenced, you remain untouched, unaffected, immaculate. And that is your original stature. A human being, unlike all other species, is designed to be independent, to be unaffected. But unfortunately today, we are more affected by the external world than any other creature. So one who is not agitated by the world. Next, 15th quality, free from joy, anger, fear, and remorse. So what is desire? So here is a person who is free from joy, anger, fear, and remorse. All these are modifications of desire. Let's take a look at desire. What is desire? Where does desire spring from? Desire comes from a sense of emptiness. All of us are haunted by an acute feeling of emptiness from birth to death, from morning to night. And as a result of this emptiness that we experience, thoughts come in the mind that go out into the world to acquire objects and beings of the world in the belief that that will fulfill you. And you've acquired so many things in your lifetime, you've acquired thousands of things from the world. Has that emptiness gone? No. Has the emptiness reduced? No. Has it ever occurred to you, how is it that in spite of my gaining so many things, this wretched emptiness does not go, does not even reduce? We don't think. But if we had thought, we would come to the conclusion, as the masters tell us, that this is because that emptiness is not for real. We are experiencing an imaginary emptiness. Even as we are haunted by this sense of emptiness, these masters tell us that you are full, not just full, paripurna. Purna means full. Paripurna, totally, supremely fulfilled. Then what is the problem? You don't know it. For some strange, inexplicable reason, you don't know you are full. And this ignorance of your fullness results in this whole tamasha that's going on in the world. This incessant desire, incessant greed. Now, once you get the desire, you fulfill the desire, what happens? Is that the end of it? Suppose you say, like a fellow in America told me, he says, I have decided that so many $1 million I need to be happy. And I'm short of that by $3 million. By the time you come again to America next year, I will have obtain that. So the following year I go there and he tells me very jubilantly, you know, I told you $3 million I had to make, I've made $5 million. So I said, so you're ready to retire now? Because he had told me, I'll make that $3 million, I'll retire, come back to India and do social service. So I asked him, you made $5 million, are you ready to retire, pack up and come to India? He says, no. Because, you know, I made one fatal mistake in the calculation. I said, what? I didn't allow for inflation. So this is it. When the desire gets fulfilled, you want more and more and more. And then you are envious of those who have more than you, and that's a terrible thing. Constantly you're looking at people who have more than you. I have a Honda Accord and that fellow has a Mercedes. And it burns you, that envy. And if you reach the very top, still you're not happy, because what is the next problem? The problem is fear, somebody will come and take away my wealth. So when the desire is fulfilled, first you get joy, then that joy leads to envy and fear. And when the desire is not fulfilled, you get sorrow and remorse. So whether the desire is fulfilled or frustrated, you are still in trouble. So what is the way out? Gain independence. So as long as your focus is on the world, you will always be unhappy, sorrowful. Turn inward. The moment you turn within, instantly you get relief. Relief from this desire and its modifications. And you get to the self, you reach the state of infinite bliss. Therefore, look within. Now, when the scriptures tell us to gain freedom from desire, we don't like it because we associate it with their saying, don't have objects of desire. That's not true. What they are saying, in fact, Krishna tells Arjuna in the 11th chapter, he says, arise, Arjuna, and gain this vast kingdom. Enjoy this affluent kingdom. Enjoy the wealth that the world has to offer. Who is he telling? He's not just telling Arjuna, he's telling us. But the question is, how do you gain the world? You have to be able to rise above desire, then the object of the desire comes to you. You understand? If you want money, you don't gain money by meditating on money. Don't say money, 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 money doesn't come to you. What must you do? You must set aside the desire for money and learn to deliver value to your customer, to gain merit, to be able to deliver something to people around you. It's only then that you gain value. So you have to be able to rise above the desire for personal profit and pleasure and commit yourself to a higher ideal. Only then you gain the object of desire. So desire, in fact, is the impediment to your acquiring and enjoying things of the world. Therefore, he says, give up desire, gain the world, enjoy the world. But we misunderstand it. So that's the problem. Harsha, Amarsha, Bhaya, Udvegaihi, Muktaha. So this mukti is freedom from desire. Freedom from all the turbulence that comes as a result of desire. Next verse 16.